Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. And I'm here today in the middle of the week with another thought from Second Peter. Now, last week I talked about First Peter, and this week I'm talking about Second Peter. I guess I talk about Third Peter next week, but there isn't one. I did that one time. I was in a church and I said, okay, now I want you to turn to Third Peter 2. And boy, you'd hear the pages turning and then turning and then turning. They'd look at me, and then finally someone said, there is no Third Peter. I said, yeah, I know. I was just trying to see if you were awake. So today, this week is Second Peter. Next week, well, it'll be something else. So here we are in this story, this letter, and I want to look at just one verse, just one, verse 9, second chapter, Second Peter. Here's what it says. So you see, the Lord knows how to rescue godly people from their trials, even while keeping the wicked under punishment until the final day of judgment. Now, this story, this passage, and I didn't read all of it. You can read from the beginning of the second chapter. It talks about Noah, talks about Abraham, talks about Lot, talks about how God protected them, how God didn't protect the wicked, and that kind of scenario. And that's what brings us to this passage. Is so you see. Well, first off, I'll ask the question: do you see? Do you see what God's doing in your life? Do you see God is at work and wants the best for you? Do you see that whatever the struggle is, there's a way out of it? There is a light at the end of the tunnel, though that tunnel may be really long. So do you see? So do you? Do you see what? That the Lord knows how to rescue godly people, even in their trials. Well, there's a caveat here. He talks about godly people. Well, who are godly people? I don't want to be judgmental. You can choose any path you want to choose in life. It's your choice, and the results and consequences are yours as well. But people who choose not to walk with God are throwing away some of the best stuff in the world. Now, I hear you say, well, I haven't chosen not to walk with God. I just haven't chosen to walk with God. Well, guess what? There isn't a third option. A lot of people seem to think we're kind of like on the fence. And I've either decided to go to the front of the fence or I've decided to go to the back of the fence. So I just haven't decided. But it doesn't work that way with God. It's really pretty simple. Either you choose God or you haven't chosen God. You don't choose Him, period. Now you can change, you can flip again and go back and choose Him. But just because you haven't decided in your mind doesn't mean that you aren't living a life that isn't what He wants. You see, either you're walking with God or you're not. Now it says here, so you see, the Lord knows how to rescue godly people from their trials. Trials are tough. They're a pain in the back of your neck and other places. And they're certainly no fun. I've had a bunch of them. I bet you have too. Some of you might be in the midst of one. And you're trying to figure out, ah, now what? How much more can I take? And only God knows that answer. But this says that in the midst of that, not in spite of it, not only when you don't have it, but in the midst of that, God rescues people. Okay, so how does He rescue you? Does He pick you up and remove the circumstances? Yeah, sometimes. Does he let you stay there, but yet changes the circumstances so you begin to see a clear path forward? Yeah, sometimes. Does he let you stay in the difficult trial and you can't find an answer? Yeah, sometimes he does that too. Now, I can't tell you why he chooses those three options. Probably has more options than that anyway, but those three are particularly good ones. Why he doesn't just automatically reach everybody out, pick them up, get them out of the trial, and let them go on with life. I guess it has something to do with his ability to see the future in ways that you and I can't. Sometimes there are lessons I have to learn. Now, I don't mean that God's punishing me to teach me something. I'm just saying there's something I have to learn. Uh, when I went through my divorce, it was awful. Yeah, it was worse than awful. And I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But yet, I'm so thankful that I went through it because I came out on the other side a whole lot better person, a whole lot better pastor, a whole lot better father, and a whole lot better Christian. I understand more now than I did before. No, I don't want to go back to it again. No, forget, not voluntary. But yet, in the midst of that trial, God was doing things, even though at first I couldn't see them. And the same will happen in your case, or is happening right now, even if you can't see it. God's hand is at work around you and me 24/7, 360 a year. He's always there, especially when we don't see him. So here it says that we need to know, because in the midst of the trial, midst of the difficulty, there's a sense of nobody cares. And this is never going to end. And it feels that way. And I understand that it feels that way because I've been there and I know how it feels that way. But that's not the whole story. The whole story is that God is at work. And we need to look for Him in the midst of those trials and see what He's doing to lift us up and remove us from that horrible place. So the next time you're in the midst of a mess, or if you're in a mess right now, don't look at the mess. I mean, that's ugly enough as it is. Look at what is God doing? What does God want me to do today in the midst of this thing? Not what does He want me to do next week, the week after, the month. No, 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 no. What does He want you to do right now? And the reason why is because right now is the only place where we can make a difference. But we have to have the absolute conviction. And that's what it says here. So you see the absolute conviction that God rescues His people. That's you and that's me when we allow Him to guide our life. Well, you think about that. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll be back tomorrow with another thought. God bless you. Take care.